everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming today. It's a big day. After 2 great seasons as host, I am officially announcing my retirement from the box score. I just want to make sure that I thank my family, my friends, and the entire box score team for making this a wonderful experience. Now, as far as the future of the box score is concerned, I pride myself in it, having a peaceful transfer of power between hosts. That's how it's been done. That's how it will continue to be done, and that is what's happening here today. So, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce the next host of the box score, Ryan Ribeiro. Ryan, congratulations.
Thanks, Brian. I just want to say, not only do I appreciate the opportunity, but I am excited for this opportunity. I think the fans are really in for something special this season. I mean, I'm pumped. I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, now, if you don't mind, we can open it up for some questions from the media. Yeah.
Brian, any truth to the rumor that Ryan was not your first choice?
No comment. Yeah.
Brian, the box score was nominated for an EVVY last season. Why leave now?
Well, I mean, we were nominated, but we didn't win, and that's on me. And I think the show needs to go in a different direction. If they want to win an EVVY, it's going to require a lot of hard work and a new vision. And I think Ryan's he's well equipped for that. Yeah. You in the back.
Brian, thoughts on Shohei Ohtani winning Rookie of the Year?
Well, I mean, okay. First of all, Miguel Andujar should have won. That's such a stupid question. I mean, what? That's not even. All right. Sit down. Okay, you are a rude, terrible person. All right, that's just a disgraceful question. All right, sit down. You know what? Can we revoke his press pass or something?
I think you made your point. Just calm down. We got it from here.
All right.
Does anyone have any questions for me?
Yeah.
Jacob deGrom is overrated.
That's not even a question. Are you kidding me? Do you really need me to read off his stats right now? Is that what we're really about to do? The guy's the best pitcher in baseball.
Okay, Ryan, calm down. All right. You have a whole show. Just save it.
You're right. It's not worth wasting my time.
No, it's not. All right. Well, thank you all for being here today. Once again, I'm Brian Danoff.
I'm Ryan Ribeiro.
And this is the box score.
It's been a few weeks since the City of Champions that is known as Boston brought home their 11th championship in 15 years. A great time to be a Bostonian, and an even better time to be a Red Sox fan with a bright future ahead. But the team that everyone forgets? The Los Angeles Dodgers. That's right, the team that has now lost on the game's biggest stage 2 years in a row. The team that had owned the league's highest payroll for 4 straight years before taking a drastic drop this season to number 3. Yes, those Dodgers. Every year it seemed as if Los Angeles was getting closer and closer to grabbing that coveted Commissioner's Trophy in October. In 2015, they lost in 5 in the NLDS to the New York Mets. In 2016, it was an exit in 6 in the NLCS to the surging Chicago Cubs. And the last 2 seasons have concluded with the same old story. Dave Roberts, Clayton Kershaw, and Justin Turner are just not enough for this team to finish it off. The star power of LA is there. Yasiel Puig has the power, the arm, and the flair to be called a bona fide star in the game after struggling following his stellar rookie campaign. Cody Bellinger is one of the game's bright young stars with a future ahead that appears to have no ceiling. And the acquisition of Manny Machado midseason to fill the hole at shortstop left by injured former Rookie of the Year Corey Seager seemed to be the missing piece to a roster on paper that no one in the NL could match. The problem? Almost every playoff team in the AL can. The Red Sox bats proved that theory correct. The Astros' pitching and power at the plate showed to be too much for the Dodgers to handle in last year's Fall Classic. And even a team like the Yankees, who are quite similar on paper, seem to be more well put together and a cohesive unit than the reigning NL champions. The Dodgers just never seemed to fully click as a team, and it showed even when they were able to defeat the red-hot Brewers in 7 games. The NL was comprised of multiple teams just unable to put it all together in the last 2 seasons, and the Dodgers, unlike their talented counterparts, just capitalized on the opportunity. If you're LA, however, where do you go from here? Do you spend even more money than you have in years past? Do you fire the manager in Dave Roberts, who appeared to right the ship and led you to 2 straight World Series appearances? Do you extend players that have been mainstays in the organization for the journey to the top of the NL? They've already decided to extend starting pitcher Clayton Kershaw to a 3-year, $93 million deal to keep him around. Kershaw is among the best in baseball when healthy during the regular season. With 3 Cy Young Awards and an MVP to his name, it's hard to argue that. But the problem with Kershaw has always been his performance in the postseason, where he holds a very shaky 4.32 ERA in 30 total appearances. And when his team needed him most in Game 5 of this year's World Series, Kershaw yet again laid a dud, giving up 4 runs in 7 innings, not ever really providing his team with a chance to climb back in it. Again, it's unfair to call a star like Kershaw the problem. But is he the solution? For me, these Los Angeles Dodgers feel a lot like the 2010-2011 Texas Rangers, a team that made the World Series 2 years in a row, but both times fell short. A team that boasted the likes of Prince Fielder, Nelson Cruz, Cliff Lee, and Ian Kinsler as the players to take them to the promised land for years to come. That team fell to obscurity and irrelevance right after that 2011 season, until resurging again for a short period of time in 2015. If you're the Dodgers, that's a slippery slope that is not out of the realm of possibility. Maybe go after a star like Bryce Harper to solidify the outfield, or trade for an all-star behind the plate in Miami's JT Realmuto. They could even go after a guy like Patrick Corbin to be the more than solid number 2 punch behind Kershaw. Whatever the move is, they need to make it. The time to be complacent is not now. The window to win a world championship does not stay open forever, and teams like the Cubs and upstart Braves aren't getting any worse. So if you're the Dodgers, the clock is ticking. For now, let's move on to part 1 of a new segment we are calling the Hot Take Factory. For more on that in the worlds of lacrosse, that's right, I said lacrosse, we kick it over to Jacqueline Galvin. Jacqueline?
Thanks, Ryan. Lacrosse is the fastest growing sport in the NCAA, with 70 varsity teams being added the past 2 years and an additional 50 expected to be added this coming year. Due to this large growth in popularity, I believe that college lacrosse will become a mainstream college sport by the year 2022. Over 190,000 high school students are playing high school lacrosse, with a 12.3% retention rate heading to college. This is the highest retention rate among all college sports, making it the easiest sport for people to continue playing for a longer period of time. College football and basketball are seeing a decline in attendance at games, and many teams are struggling to compete with the higher budget Division I teams. For example, the University of Idaho football team had to shift down a division to compete with schools that have similar budgets to their own. In college lacrosse, most Division I schools have the same budget, so there is a more even amount of competition throughout D1 colleges. Participation on the youth level of football is declining due to how expensive it is, the amount of students you need to fill the roster, and how dangerous it is for student athletes to be playing every snap for the team. Participation for lax on the youth levels is the highest it has ever been, and it is only predicted to increase, topping 450,000 for the first time ever. With more players becoming trained and good at the sport, the more they will want to play D1 in college and will be recruited for it. Likewise, the more that football continues to decline, the less likely there will be a large quantity of high-profile football recruits for D1 colleges, making the play less competitive. Another major increase for college lacrosse is the availability of the Lacrosse Sports Network, a streaming website that broadcasts lacrosse 24/7. The exposure that this network is allowing for the sport will grow the fan base due to the constant ability to view games for free. Likewise, the NCAA Championship Weekend is broadcasted on ESPN every year, with increasing ratings. Major sports conferences have also adopted lax in their programs, including the ACC and the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 now has a women's league. This is 2.5 of the Power 5 leagues, which shows how the sport is adapting into the biggest conferences in the country. Overall, lacrosse is growing as a sport and in its viewership. As long as the youth numbers continue to rise and ESPN continues to broadcast the sport, more fans will come, and in turn, the sport will grow in popularity. That's all for part 1 of the Hot Take Factory. Back to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Jacqueline. I'm now joined by Avikar Gloth and Noah Bender. Before we get started, guys, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty amped about the future of lacrosse. Can't wait. Anyway, we're here to talk some NBA. So, if you told me a month ago that the Raptors and Bucks were going to be atop the East 13 games in, I would have thought the Celtics relocated out west. With teams like that performing so well so far, who do you think is the biggest threat and can hang on to the hot start that they've had thus far?
Well, for me, no doubt about it, it's the Toronto Raptors. I mean, they've been making deep playoff runs for years now. Much different team now that DeMar DeRozan's gone. However, with the addition of Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, pair them along with Kyle Lowry, you have a formidable three players on the outside that can do damage, both offensively and defensively. Pascal Siakam, Jonas Valanciunas, Serge Ibaka. Those are the three bigs that have really been rotating in and out of the lineup that have given them good minutes on both sides of the ball. They've always been a deep team. Head coach Nick Nurse has been seamless in his transition as the head coach. For me, the Toronto Raptors have been the team to beat at the start of the season in the Eastern Conference.
You know, this year I'm going to pay special attention to the Philadelphia 76ers. You know, right now they recently just added Jimmy Butler, giving them 3 top 20 players, one of the very few teams in the league to boast that. And Jimmy Butler will be a great addition to their team because he's a knockdown shooter and a lockdown defender. But having a history of being more of a hot-headed teammate, he's going to have to get used to playing second to guys like Embiid, who's playing awesome this year, and Ben Simmons, who is a definite star on the rise. This is the first year that they're really being considered championship contenders, and I'm really liking to see where it's going to end up for them.
Yeah, it's certainly the first time in a while we've seen a diverse field of competitors in the East. Guys, the NBA draft this year was full of stars like DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, Trae Young. Who's impressed you most so far into their young NBA career?
You know, my favorite rookie right now is definitely Luka Doncic. Right now he's playing for the Mavericks, which don't really have that much to show for them right now, but that doesn't really matter because he is playing awesome. He's averaging about 19, 20 points a game, which is great for a first-year player in the NBA. But where he really shines is in transition. He's an amazing passer with great assets like an elite finisher like DeAndre Jordan to hit through the key, and also great wing shooters like J.J. Barea and Wesley Matthews. Also, he's had a lot of experience right now with playing pro ball since he was 16, even though he's only 19. And I'm expecting him to make some great waves and boost the Mavericks roster.
For me, it's Trae Young, and I saw a lot of comparisons when he was in Oklahoma to Steph Curry. That's a lot of pressure to deal with, and he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder now after getting traded along with the first-round pick for Luka, and so now he's in Atlanta, a team that's not really in position to win a lot of basketball games this year, and they're not, and that's expected. But he is emerging as a potential building block for this franchise. Obviously, he's still got a way to go. He's had some struggles, but these types of struggles, most notably turnovers and inefficient shooting, those are things that will come with experience and development. And I think the structure is in place to do so. Trae Young, for me, has been by far the most impressive, and we'll see where it goes with Atlanta in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And guys, just to wrap things up here, there have been a lot of surprises so early in the season. You've got the Nuggets, the Trailblazers, even the Clippers out west. They're among the top teams in that conference, while you got the Rockets and the Celtics, struggling in their respective conferences. Who has been the biggest surprise to you so far?
Well, for me, it's the first team you said, Denver. The Nuggets have a bona fide star now in Jokic, and to run an offense through a center in today's point guard-driven league is pretty impressive. Along with Paul Millsap, the two of them form a very formidable front court. Paul Millsap, by the way, maybe the most underrated player in basketball besides Kemba Walker. You got a couple of young guards in Jamal Murray and Gary Harris. So you have that outside, you have that inside. They've always been great at offense, but they're adding a defensive element to it, being one of the better defensive teams in the Western Conference now. Head coach Michael Malone has always been a favorite of mine. I've always liked watching him. His teams always bring the intensity needed to at least give themselves a chance to win. Denver can go far in the Western Conference playoffs if they play their cards right.
You know, I've been really pleasantly surprised right now by the Milwaukee Bucks. They're really moving up the ranks and can really be contenders in the East. With the addition of their new coach, Mike Budenholzer, they've really moved to prioritize the three-point game. They're really high in the rankings on that, just second only to the Golden State Warriors, obviously. And it's because they've got great shooters like Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez really firing on all cylinders and really hitting those shots. And, of course, their big star, Giannis Antetokounmpo, this is going to be his year. He's really hungry for the MVP, and you can tell in his game. I'm really liking the way that the Bucks are shaping up, and I think they'll be real contenders in the East.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all the time we have. We could talk about how we foresee this season going on for days on end. When we come back, we'll kick it over to Natalie Clydesdale for Who's Hot and Who's Not. And after that, we'll head over to the newly added Sports Court to settle the case that has divided, well, only Johnny Manacchia. Is Patrick Mahomes already better than Aaron Rodgers? We'll see how things play out in the courtroom after the break. Good job. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good job.
Take talent view.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson trails
Camera 4 get a shot of the players coming across the court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As
Camera 2 close upon the person shooting.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this foul.
Camera 1 gonna close to follow them over.
Emerson trails WVI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1 close upon number 33.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away.
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Welcome back to the Box Score. Wondering who's trending and who's not in the world of sports? Well, that's what Natalie Clydesdale is here for in our segment appropriately named Who's Hot and Who's Not. Natalie?
Thanks, Ryan. For this week's Who's Hot, Who's Not segment, I'm going to kick things off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. After a rough start to the season, the Steelers are finally heating up. They're on a 5-game win streak, and Big Ben is arguably having the best season of his career. He completed 22 of 25 passes and threw 5 touchdowns in last week's dominant 52-21 win against the Carolina Panthers. James Conner has successfully stepped into the starting running back position for Le'Veon Bell. Conner has already scored 10 touchdowns this season and is averaging 4.7 yards per carry. First-round fantasy football numbers for sure, just maybe not the Pittsburgh running back you were expecting. Speaking of Le'Veon Bell, he is not so hot right now. This week, Bell did not show up to the Steelers' headquarters, officially forfeiting the 2018 season. Bell sat out this season, demanding a long-term deal without having to take the risk of getting injured. However, he did show up to an LA Fitness in Pittsburgh and was seen playing pickup basketball with locals. An interesting choice for someone trying to avoid busting an ankle. In college basketball news, the Duke Blue Devils are off to a red-hot start and rose to the top spot in this week's AP poll. Their wins against Army and number 10 Kentucky were both blowout victories. Coach K's team is going to be hard to beat this year, as they have the 3 players in R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and Cam Reddish, who are likely to go first, second, and third in the 2019 NBA Draft. The trio is averaging a combined 79 points, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists per game. Numbers that are certainly better than any NBA trio residing in Cleveland or Atlanta. Despite boiling tempers, things are not looking too hot for the Golden State Warriors right now. The Warriors barely beat the 3-11 Atlanta Hawks on Tuesday night, but perhaps the more concerning part of the game was who didn't play. The Warriors suspended Draymond Green for detrimental conduct to the team. The suspension came after he and Kevin Durant got in a shouting match after Green ignored Durant's calls for the ball and tried to be a hero in the final seconds in the Warriors' loss on Monday to the Clippers. As if things couldn't get any worse, Steph Curry's groin injury will keep him from playing in the team's road trip, and he will have to be reevaluated in the coming week. That's all I've got for Who's Hot and Who's Not. Back to you, Ryan.
Welcome to Sports Court. The court is designed to have our 2 lawyers make their case on a hot topic in the world of sports. And when both sides have finished, we will let our jury deliberate and make the verdict. Today, we'll hear the case of whether or not Patrick Mahomes is already better than Aaron Rodgers. Some may question the validity of the court for taking this case, but it's been a slow week in the justice system. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our jury for fulfilling their civic duty. I believe we have some opening statements prepared. We'll start with the prosecution.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's time we open our eyes and see that the best quarterback in the league is not Drew Brees, it's not Tom Brady, and it's not Aaron Rodgers. Yes, I'm saying it right now, Patrick Mahomes is better than Aaron Rodgers. First of all, how valuable is a guy if every year we continue to say the same thing? He's the best to ever do it, but he's just banged up and injured. Well, how good can someone be if they're never on the field and are consistently not 100%? That's been Rodgers the past few seasons. On top of that, the eye test shows Mahomes has had so many more moments this season than the one comeback win Rodgers had over a young Bears team. That same argument could be made for Mahomes, who led the Chiefs' second half explosion against New England. Yes, they didn't win, but if Mahomes gets that ball back, they certainly would have. And don't give me the defense and weapon arguments either. Mahomes is playing with the worst scoring defense and points per game defense in the league. Sure, Mahomes has plenty of weapons in Hill, Hunt, and Kelsey, but Rodgers has Devontae Adams, maybe the best hands in the league, former Pro Bowler Jimmy Graham, and elite number 2 receiver in Randall Cobb. And if that hasn't convinced you, just look at the numbers. Mahomes has 31 touchdowns, 3,100 yards, 67% completion percentage, and a QBR of 84.8. Meanwhile, Rodgers has 17 touchdowns, a QBR of 53, and only 2,700 yards. May I conclude my opening statement with one last point? Mahomes is younger, he's faster, and most of all, his arm might be stronger now than Rodgers ever was.
Well, no quarterback in history other than Aaron Rodgers has the combined accuracy, touch, and ability to throw the ball from the pocket, from different planes, from moving left to right. No one has ever been able to do all of those things with the accuracy that Aaron Rodgers has been able to. Rodgers is consistently in the conversation of the greatest quarterback of all time. So based on what you're saying, you think Mahomes, after just a few games, would be in this same conversation? Rodgers' throwing mechanics and accuracy are unmatched by any player in the NFL, let alone a kid with a hot start.
We'll now open it up to the prosecution to make their case before the defense hops in. Johnny?
Yeah, well, see, I heard you say something there that nobody can throw it like Aaron Rodgers can throw it. And that's a valid point. I would agree that maybe you're right. But I have some stats to back it up. According to Player Profile Advanced Stats, Metrics, and Analytics, my guy, Patrick Mahomes, has 24 money throws. Now, what is a money throw? A money throw is a pass requiring exceptional skill or athleticism, as well as critical throws in key moments. Patrick Mahomes has 24 of those kind of like Aaron Rodgers throws that people kind of refer to them as. Aaron Rodgers this season, he only has 14 of these throws. So your argument there of he can throw it like no one else, well, I just told you that Patrick Mahomes can throw it like him, and he's done it a lot more this season.
Well, I think it's an interesting point that you make there. What is special about Aaron Rodgers is he makes these extraordinary passes, these money throws that you speak of, seem very routine. And so I think a lot of this is overlooked. I don't know what kind of money throw stat you're looking at, but I also would argue that the stats don't even give an accurate depiction of just how good Rodgers is. And you think back a couple years, 2016-17 season, it's probably the worst we've seen him play in recent years. Like he opened the season, first 5 or 6 games was rough. You look back, 67 accurate passes that he threw were turned into incompletions by a teammate, costing him a lot of yards. And I think that is consistent throughout not just that season, but there are a lot of passes that he throws that are those balls that you're speaking of, and then they're dropped on the other end.
Okay, so you're telling me here, so what I'm hearing from you is it's not his fault if he has a bad throw. We're going to blame it on the receiver.
It's not a bad throw, it's an accurate pass.
Okay, so an inaccurate pass.
It's not an inaccurate pass, it's an accurate pass.
That's dropped.
That is what I said.
Okay, all right. So, well, I'm just trying to get this here because when I look at Mahomes, I don't really see inaccurate passes. I don't see that. Do you see that with Patrick Mahomes?
Well, here's the thing. So I think Patrick Mahomes is great, and I think he's had a great start. But the whole point of all of this is that we have such a small sample size that we're looking at with Mahomes. There is no way that we can argue that he is greater than any of these guys in this conversation. You said not Drew Brees, not Tom Brady, not Aaron Rodgers. So how many games have we seen Patrick Mahomes play in the NFL?
9, yeah.
We've seen him play 9 games.
Right, yeah.
And you think that's enough to argue that he's better than Tom Brady, better than Patrick Mahomes, better than Aaron Rodgers, excuse me,
Yeah.
better than Drew Brees?
Correct, yeah.
You're throwing around all these names. You think he's the greatest quarterback of all time?
Not yet. but-
Not yet?
yeah.
Okay, so there's your argument.
Okay, well, hold on. Just give me a second. Give me a second here. So, Patrick Mahomes, right? He's only played 9 games. He hasn't played in a playoff game, right? Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
fair.
Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers, you said he has all this experience. He's done it for so long. That's what you just said. And how has he done the last couple seasons in the playoffs?
That's another conversation. I think
Okay.
we're talking, if we're going to go in playoffs, we're going to talk about Tom Brady. We're going to talk about rings. We're going to talk about Super Bowls. But with Aaron Rodgers, my argument is that his ability, he's great at everything. There is not one pass that I think Aaron Rodgers has a hard time with. He can throw from anywhere. You watch him play, he doesn't even need to set a good base. He can get the ball off from anywhere.
What I'm telling you is everything this season that I've seen from Aaron Rodgers, every single thing, I think Patrick Mahomes can do it and just as well, okay? That's all I'm saying. I know it's not a big sample size, but Patrick Mahomes, what I've seen, he is better.
Well, there was certainly no order in this court when that just went on. I think you've both made your points very clear these past few minutes. Let's go to the closing statements. We'll go back to the prosecution.
Yeah. I understand that Aaron Rodgers is as talented as they come. And although he's been the guy for a number of years now, a new era has arrived. And we are witnessing pure greatness in the form of a 23-year-old stud. The facts are there. The evidence is there. The eye test is there. I just ask everyone here today to have an open mind and realize in every sport, greatness has to come to an end. And when this happens, the torch is passed. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. And yes, he is in fact better than Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers' abilities have stood the test of time. Mahomes shows promise, but it is far too early to argue that he is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Short and sweet from the defense. Does it speak to Hannah's confidence? We'll find out how the jury feels as they give their verdict when we come back in a few minutes.
EVVY Games, I'm your host, Jamie Sanders, and this is a very special episode. We have a bit of a short staffing, if you will, but that's okay. The show must go on. So without further ado, let's meet our contestants. On the orange side, representing something, is Jamie Sanders. Hi, and thanks for having me on, Jamie. Thanks for coming on with such short notice, man. I really appreciate it. But anyway, representing the purple team, we have Jamie Sanders. I'm so excited to be here. Oh, God, it's so much fun. I'm gonna beat you. Guys, we gotta stop. We gotta stop. This just isn't working. It's just Jamie, come on. Let's be real. You can't just be 3 different guys at the same time. That's ridiculous. Really? Really? After all that, you're still trying to pitch the show? I mean, come on. No, cut it. Stop it. Stop everything. This is terrible. This is ridiculous. You're all fired. Go home. Go home. But watch MTV Games.
Welcome back to the box score. The jury has finished deliberating over the break, and I believe we are ready for a decision. Juror number 1, how do you find?
We find Aaron Rodgers to be better than Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry.
It has been decided. Hannah, congratulations on your first win in sports court. A career-defining moment for sure, but there will certainly be a tougher road ahead. Now to wrap things up here on the box score, we're going to go to Avikar Gloth for part 2 of the Hot Take Factory, where he will be making a pretty big statement against a player many believe to be the greatest to ever grace the court. Avi?
Thanks, Ryan. LeBron James is no longer the best basketball player in the world. Yes, I said it. And I don't enjoy saying it, nor do I want to. But what I've seen over the course of the first month of this NBA season has showed me enough. LeBron James is no longer the best basketball player on the planet. I don't have a statistic or a chart to support any of my claims. All I have is the good old-fashioned eye test. Now let me be very, very clear here. LeBron is the best basketball player I have ever seen by a mile, but he is no longer the player he once was. He is no longer a great defender, maybe no longer even a good one. He's never been a particularly great shooter from the outside or on the free throw line. I'm not here to give a name of who is now the best, but I know it's no longer him. Look at Kevin Durant, for example. What does LeBron do better than him? Passing and on-court IQ is all I can think of. And is he a better two-way player than Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, or Giannis Antetokounmpo? Look, I'm not saying he's no longer great. He's just no longer the best. We are watching a legend defy Father Time by still playing at an elite level. No one is questioning his past accomplishments or Hall of Fame resume, but at this point in time, he is no longer the best player on the planet. Back to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Avi. LeBron no longer the best in the league? Quite the hot take to close things out here on the Box Score. That's all the time we have. If you haven't already, check us out on our Facebook page. For everyone here on the Box Score, I'm Ryan Ribeiro. We'll see you next time.